ABC 7 Extra.
Good evening, I'm Saul Sainz, and this is ABC 7 Extra Sunday Edition. Thank you for sharing your Sunday evening with us on this, the first Sunday Extra of 2024. Cannabis sales are soaring in a small city just west of the state line. According to recent numbers, Sunland Park dispensary sold a whopping $32 million in cannabis merchandise, from marijuana leaf, form to gummies, oils, and creams. What makes this so astonishing is once the New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed the Cannabis Regulation Act on April 12, 2021, and sales were given the green light, dispensaries started popping up faster than convenience stores. The Cannabis Regulation Act legalized the cultivation, manufacturing, purchasing, possession, and consumption of recreational cannabis for adults 21 years and older. As of today, there are dozens of dispensaries in a 5-mile radius in Sunland Park, an impressive amount since the city has a population of barely 17,000. Sunland Park has more dispensaries than Circle K's. That number grows exponentially on any given weekend, with out-of-towners, mostly from El Paso, who drive in from their purchases. Some dispensaries even have drive-thrus in case you don't want to step out of your car. But what benefits have high marijuana sales brought to the small town of Sunland Park and adjoining Santa Teresa? And what effect has recreational marijuana had on crime in the area? Joining us to talk about the benefits of strong cannabis sales in Sunland Park is Mayor Javier Perea. Mayor Perea has witnessed the explosion of dispensaries in his city. Sitting next to him is Sunland Park Police Chief Eric Lopez. And also joining us is Colt DeMorris. He is with Astrobuds. So let's get straight to it. Mr. Mayor, just how many dispensaries are in Sunland Park right now?
So right now we have 23 dispensaries, and then we have about 11 more in the process, somewhere along the process for approval. And it's been a growing number, because we did start with 3 with medical cannabis dispensaries before it became recreationally legalized in the state of New Mexico.
And you said you have 11 more on the way. So when the dispensary owners come to you and say, look, I'm looking for a spot, I want to open up another dispensary, do you say, well, let's look where we can fit you, or do you just say yes right away? No,
for the most part, the only authority that we have as a municipality is to dictate where it is allowed in our zoning laws. So in any location that they pick out throughout the city, they have to approach the city and see if it's allowed within that proper zoning. And for the most part, a lot of the vacant buildings that existed throughout our community are now taken up by cannabis dispensaries.
And you also have some that are being built, right, as well?
That's correct. And with our entertainment venues that are coming into the city, we're hoping to see additional cannabis locations in those areas as well.
I'm going to be asking you about those entertainment venues as well. Chief Lopez, how big is your police force, and do you patrol these dispensaries on a regular basis?
Our police force is budgeted for 29 positions. Right now we are filled with 23. And yes, these dispensaries are patrolled in the same manner as we would just patrol the schools and the neighborhoods.
Okay. Mr. DeMorris, your dispensary, well, the dispensary that you work with is in Chaparral, but you work, your work function under the same guidelines that all dispensaries do in Mexico, right? As far as you know, are all dispensaries doing as well as the ones in Sunland Park?
They are not. I'm familiar with numbers from Chaparral and Las Cruces, and Sunland Park is just booming over those. I looked at numbers on a dispensary out there, and some of them are grossing over $1 million a month.
$1 million a month?
Yes, those numbers aren't being seen in Chaparral or Las Cruces. Sunland Park is definitely booming.
Why do you think that dispensaries in Sunland Park, some of them are grossing $1 million a month and other places are not? I mean, there's some in Las Cruces that definitely are not making that much money, and logically the one in Chaparral is not making as much as well. What do you attribute that to?
Location, proximity to the border, proximity to El Paso. So Sunland Park, prior to the legalization in New Mexico, everybody from El Paso, southern New Mexico, and even East Texas was going to Trinidad, Colorado. Once legalization happened in Sunland Park became the new Trinidad. So it's the Mecca. That's where everybody from out of town is going. It's the closest place. It's the most accessible. And that's why we're seeing the numbers we're seeing there.
When you all opened up in Chaparral, was it something that was hard to predict? That you thought, well, maybe we'll make just as much as Sunland Park? Is it hit or miss? What was going through your mind when you said Chaparral versus Sunland Park?
So the decision was made on building location, and it wasn't a matter of not being in Sunland Park. We want to be in Sunland Park, but finding the location, the building space is something that everybody's having a hard time doing in Sunland Park.
Mayor, $32 million in 1 year, that's astonishing. How do the citizens of your city benefit from those sales?
So right now, one of the benefits that we're seeing is that, we had a bunch of older infrastructure, older buildings across the community that those spaces have been taken up. Now they're producing revenues for the municipality. So we've seen a construction GRTs because these buildings have to be refurbished and brought up to code. So we've seen an increase in construction GRTs, gross receipts taxes, and also the cannabis tax that goes. We get 3% of the sales. So that goes to the city as well. And last fiscal year, which starts in June and ends in July, we had over $800,000 in new revenues to the municipality. This year we're projecting $1.2 million in revenues, additional revenues. And we haven't allocated expenses to those new revenues, but we wanted to see how they materialize these first couple of years. But in the upcoming year, the next fiscal year, we're going to be proposing to the council to bring benefits to both police department, the fire department, and also our public works department, which are in dire need of improvements and equipment.
Okay, we're going to take a really quick break right now, but when we come back, I'll ask Mr. DeMorris if there are any safety concerns, and I'll also ask the police chief if there are any concerns about safety as well, about crime being lured by some of these dispensaries. We'll have a response when we come back. You're watching ABC 7 Extra Sunday Edition, where news comes first.
Are you a home builder or contractor building your own home or doing an addition to your current home? Extreme Foam Solutions is now in El Paso and Las Cruces for all your residential and commercial spray foam needs. Our premium spray helps insulate with an airtight seal, improving comfort and energy efficiency. We offer contractor pricing and price matching guaranteed. Call us for a free inspection and evaluation today. Reduce your energy bills and start your project with Extreme Foam Solutions. 915-276-6485.
It's a new year, new goals, and the perfect time to kickstart your journey to success. At Western Tech, we don't just teach. We fuel your curiosity and prepare you for the tech world of tomorrow. Enroll now in one of our 4 exciting programs. The best part? You're not just a student here, you're part of a community, a 50-year legacy. With hands-on learning and experienced instructors, the future is yours to shape. Visit westerntech.edu and enroll today. Don't give up, rise up at Western Tech. College for the real world.
Get ready for an unforgettable experience at the El Paso Zoo. The penguins are here. That's right, the warm-weathered Magellanic penguins are here. Come see these charming creatures play above and below the water as you relax in comfortable, shaded outdoor stadium seats. Watch them dive, swim, and waddle their way into your hearts. And if you can't make it to the zoo, no worries, because you can tune in online through our live webcams to watch their every move. Don't miss out on this amazing experience for the whole family, only at the El Paso Zoo.
Year-end clearance starts now at National Furniture Liquidators. Huge savings store-wide. Deals like recliners just $195, and Ashley sofa case just $344. 5-piece bedroom set just $777, or an Ashley reclining sofa or love seat just $494 each piece, and much, much more. Plus great financing options regardless of your credit. Year-end clearance at National Furniture Liquidators. When it comes to value, quality, and selection, nobody beats short.
With the new taxes or the new revenues coming in, we haven't budgeted that in the upcoming fiscal year, but once we get an understanding or an idea as to what those taxes are going to be, we hope that we can allocate at least 50% of that income to public safety. Of course, there's a lot of need for economic development in our community development department and also our public works department. So hopefully those new revenues can be attributed or distributed amongst those departments.
That was Mayor Perea on June of 2022, before the city of Sunland Park actually knew revenues from cannabis sales would be so robust. Welcome back to ABC 7 Extra Sunday Edition. I also want to welcome back our guest, Mayor Javier Perea. Mayor Perea has witnessed the explosion of dispensaries in his city. Sitting next to him is Sunland Park Police Chief Eric Lopez, and also joining us is Colt DeMorris. He is with AstroBuds. Mayor, now that Sunland Park is surpassing much of the state in cannabis sales, what do you think? Is public safety getting that large infusion of the revenues from sales that you had predicted back in 2022?
That's something that we are going to propose to the council. Right now, we've been banking these additional revenues because we didn't know how much was going to materialize. So the public safety component of our services will see some improvements, and also the public works, which includes streets and parks, should see some improvements based on the revenues and allocations that we'll want to make into those departments.
Mr. DeMorris, just before we went to break, I indicated that I would ask you if dispensaries are dealing only in cash, and is this making you all targets? And how do you protect yourselves from this? To your knowledge, do all dispensaries deal in cash only?
So not all dispensaries deal in cash only. Some dispensaries are cash only, and I don't know how they deal with it there, but that does and can make them a target. Some dispensaries do take debit cards. There are processors out there that will process debit cards, and then other dispensaries have programs or solutions that use ACH transfer through cards or through your bank. So not all transactions are in cash. I would say a majority of them are. But
that makes you a target, though, right?
Yeah, definitely. If it's left, if it's left on premise, it can make you a target. If you're transporting it out every night, it can make you a target. But I have yet to hear of anything involving a robbery or anything involving cash to happen just yet.
Chief, is this a concern that the criminal element may want to target dispensaries because many of them are dealing in cash only?
Yes, there's always concern when it comes to cash and dealing with cash. No different than a gas station, especially if it sells alcohol. But I believe the communication and collaboration with the business owners is key. And as Mr. DeMorris pointed out, in Sunland Park, we have not had to respond yet, thankfully, to a call for service involving a robbery or anything like that.
But you have an eye on something like that could eventually happen. Yes. Because they're dealing with cash, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, there are 2 concert venues slated to open in your area. One of those will reportedly permit either cannabis use or sales with the sale of alcohol. Has this been approved? And your thoughts about the impact to the community on something like this?
Yes, so the locations that are looking to open within the city of Sunland Park, some are proposing cannabis dispensaries, lounges, and things like that. But bars, if it includes bars, those areas have to be separated. The law under New Mexico restricts those areas being combined. So there will have to be some divisions between the 2 spaces there. And those are, part of the much larger vision that we have for the city of Sunland Park that includes entertainment and outdoor recreation for the entire city, and cannabis is just a small component of our bigger vision is.
But one of these, are you familiar with one of these wanting to handle both the sales of cannabis or the use of cannabis along with alcohol?
My understanding, that is correct. However, the spaces have to be separated. You can't commingle the 2 spaces according to New Mexico law.
So in other words, you would have liquor in one part of the area and then cannabis in the other?
That's correct.
Okay, how do you patrol something like that?
Those are through different barriers that you have to put, but obviously you would have to go through the construction industries division to make sure what's appropriate and actually figure out how those operations are going to work.
Mr. DeMorris, is there such a thing as oversaturation of dispensaries, and do you have any plans to expand into Sunland Park?
I believe there is a thing of oversaturation. It can be, but it's a free market. The ones that are going to make it are going to make it, and the ones that can provide the superior product for the best prices are going to see themselves through. We always have plans of expanding, and Sunland Park is a place that we have our eye on.
Yeah, since you brought it up that some may not do that well, does Sunland Park, is it a double-edged sword where yes, they're doing really well, but could add to obviously the closing of other dispensaries elsewhere?
Definitely, and we see that in markets all across the economy. The strong survive. And that's why you just got to be the best at what you do.
Chief, what is your biggest concern about having so many dispensaries? The mayor just pointed out in the previous segment that you all have about 23 dispensaries in Sunland Park with 11 more slated to open. What is your biggest concern?
It's not so much a concern, it's just the aspect of we're going to have a lot of vehicle and foot traffic coming in to these dispensaries, especially if we think about down the road consumption lounges possibly being approved. At that point, the concern becomes personnel, in the sense of do we have enough personnel to service both the cities and the neighborhoods and the schools, and also if an increase in calls for service start to present themselves at these dispensaries, do we have enough personnel to adequately respond in a timely fashion?
You mentioned that the majority of the people who do visit these dispensaries in Sunland Park are not from Sunland Park or New Mexico, right? You want to elaborate on that?
Yes, so in conversations amongst us within the Sunland Park Police Department, we kind of guesstimate in our sense is that 80% of the plates that we see there at these dispensaries as they come in and out are Texas plates. So it looks like they're coming from more than likely El Paso.
Wow, 80%?
Correct. I think that's a pretty good solid number on what we have witnessed.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break, and given what the chief just said, I'll ask the chief if perhaps he will see his department expand with all these dispensaries open up. You're watching ABC 7 Extra. We'll be right back.
School district has more than 48,000 students and 51 campuses. But we're not just a number. Here, we're cared for. We belong. Temis ISD gives us unforgettable traditions, experiences, and the opportunities we need to have a bright future. For over 60 years, Socorro ISD has set its sights on our future with vision, innovation, and planning to prepare us for the real world. These are our opportunities, and we will seize them.
Watch Smart Money Thursday on ABC 7 at 4 with Myro Capital Management. You'll learn how to save money the right way and make better decisions to set you and your family up for financial success. Smart Money Thursday on ABC 7 at 4, sponsored by Myro Capital Management.
Thousands of people are switching to Spectrum Internet. Let's see why.
We count on Spectrum Internet and the advanced Wi-Fi to always keep us connected and protected.
It's so reliable and fast.
Switch to 300 megabit Spectrum Internet with 99.9% reliability for $49.99 a month with no added taxes or fees and no contracts, plus free advanced Wi-Fi. Call 833-402-4999 or scan to call.
Ever since we switched to Spectrum Internet, our daughter's curiosity has a new spark.
Now we're saving a ton.
Since Spectrum Internet is fast and reliable, we don't worry about interruptions.
Amazing!
Switch to super fast Spectrum Internet with the most reliable internet speeds for $49.99 a month with no added taxes or fees, plus free advanced Wi-Fi and no data caps. What are you waiting for? Call 833-402-4999 or scan to call.
Call now.
As an independent agency, Advantage Insurance Agency can customize your coverage regardless of your driving record. We'll find you the right coverage at the right price with rates starting as low as $65 per month. Call Advantage Insurance Agency right now to see how we can help.
Welcome back to this third and final segment of ABC 7 Extra Sunday Edition. And I also want to welcome back Mayor Javier Perea. Mayor Perea has witnessed the explosion of dispensaries in his city. He told me 23 right now with 11 on the way. Sitting next to him is Sunland Park Police Chief Eric Lopez. And also joining us is Colt DeMorris. He is with Astrobuds. Now, just how many more dispensaries are scheduled to open up in Sunland Park? You said 11. What if somebody else wants to come in and say, we want to build another one? Is there enough space to build more than 11 dispensaries in Sunland Park?
Absolutely. The one thing that Sunland Park has is a lot of space, and we have the capacity for many more locations. However, every industry that comes, or every business that comes into the city of Sunland Park will have to look at the market trends and see how well they're going to do. I do recommend that everyone that comes into the city of Sunland Park to try to differentiate yourself from the rest of the competition, because there is a lot of competition just within a small area.
Any fear that Sunland Park will go from being the city where Cristo Rey is to the city of dispensaries? Any fear of that happening? And how many are just too many dispensaries?
That number I really don't know the answer to, but that's why our vision is beyond what the cannabis industry is providing for the city today. Our vision encompasses bringing in tourism, investing in infrastructure that attracts people to come into the city of Sunland Park, enjoy Mount Cristo Rey. We're making investments in the river trail there on the Rio Grande, and then we also have Western Playland, who's under new ownership and is looking to make investments in that property, and obviously the Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino. We have assets there within the city that we hope to grow and expand the footprint of.
All right, Chief, here's a question. Do you foresee expanding your police force once the number of dispensaries and concert venues grow? And if so, by how many?
Well, yes, I think it's necessary that we need to grow along with these dispensaries and any big entertainment venues like you referred to. We've had continued dialogue with the city manager and the deputy city manager in the mayor's office to proactively approach this matter. And second part of your question?
Well, here's your pitch. I mean, take advantage of the fact that you have the mayor sitting right next to you. What are those needs? How much do you think you'll expand your force by? And what are some of those needs? More body cameras or any body cameras? I don't know if you'll have body cameras right now, but what are the needs for what you perceive or what is being perceived generally as this growing population and the growing number of dispensaries?
Well, like I had mentioned, there's continued dialogue going on between the city manager and our department and the deputy city manager as far as what those needs are. And until those are hashed out completely, I don't want to put a number to it right now.
How many more officers do you need? Let's start there.
Again, I don't have a number for you right now.
Putting you on the spot. All right, Mr. DeMorris, part of the Cannabis Regulation Act says dispensaries can only sell cannabis cultivated in New Mexico. Is this happening? Are there regulators visiting dispensaries?
Definitely. There are CCD enforcement officers that are out there. There are not enough to cover the whole state, and I know CCD is working on that. That's the Cannabis Control Division. And they just literally cracked down on 2 businesses recently that was bringing in out-of-state product. So it is something that is being watched and that they are trying to enforce. They just don't have the manpower to do it right now. But yes, for the most part, everything being sold out of most legitimate dispensaries is going to be grown and processed here in the state.
Do you believe that dispensaries are growing too fast to control in the city of, say, maybe like a Sunland Park?
I don't. Again, I like the free market, and I believe that everybody should have a chance and have a shot. And only those that are able to stand out and provide superior product are going to make it to make it through the market.
Mr. Mayor, let's talk about other benefits that the city of Sunland Park can have with all these dispensaries. Let's talk about schools, parks, anything that you're envisioning that can benefit from all these dispensaries that are opening up in Sunland Park and are slated to open up.
Absolutely. So the biggest things are the 2 entertainment venues that we've had long conversations with. We've made some approvals already for those. We're hoping to see additional restaurants come into the city, and the thing is to change what the city was in the past, because we were a bedroom community to the city of El Paso. So a lot of the revenue that we could have captured there has gone to the city of El Paso. We want to bring some of that back into the city and reinvest it into our community. So the cannabis industry, what's done is provided us an opportunity to create additional foot traffic, which is appetizing for other restaurants, other businesses that want to see that additional vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic. So these are different tools that have been given to us over the last year because of the legalization of cannabis, and we're trying to take advantage of it as much as possible so that we can further diversify our economy within the city of Sunland Park.
Let's talk about services to the community, though. Sure. Schools, parks, shopping centers. Like I said, there are more dispensaries at Circle K's. You see more convenience stores. What about services to the public for citizens of Sunland Park? Absolutely. What do you foresee?
So what we're seeing additionally, like right now, we're making investments in the sports complex within the city of Sunland Park. We recently got over $800,000 in funding from the state to help capture the sports tourism market. So we're going to be putting an artificial soccer field within the city of Sunland Park, and it will help reduce some of the costs for maintaining the park, but also providing additional amenities within the city. We are adding a new multi-purpose center for the city of Sunland Park. This is the first one in our entire history as a municipality. This is more than a $4 million investment. So there are a lot of different projects that we're working to connect together, along with the Rio Grande Trail, where we've made investments in as well. But the idea is to have a space where people want to live, work, and play every single day. Okay,
Mr. Mayor, Chief, and Mr. DeMorris, thank you so much for taking time on this Sunday evening to talk about the growing cannabis sales, not only in New Mexico, but specifically in Sunland Park. And I want to thank you for joining us as well on this Sunday evening. I'm Saul Saenz, and this has been ABC 7 Extra Sunday Edition. Good night y buenas noches.
Thank you for watching. ABC 7 News is now available on any of these streaming services, as well as the KVIA News and KVIA Weather and Traffic apps.